Oh, that's fighting talk.
We're not hearing much about fighters anymore, even the promotion itself, EFC, stopped doing those getting to know the fighter or like fighter interviews and all of that. So for me it was a matter of actually I'm into the sport, let me actually just find out more about the athletes.
True.
And then that's how it came about. But also being in broadcasts, you understand that difference in what you're saying in terms of producing top quality content, So that's literally the angle that I came into.
I like this, because I think Africa at the moment is hot right now.
Nah.
It's hot. The product's hot.
Nah.
Yeah.
This one specifically, or just in general,
Well, since Dricker's opened up the door even more.
True.
Everyone's got their eyes on Africa. You have a few agents from overseas trying to gain some African fighters over. They want to get them on their agency. So just that shows me that the market is hot right now.
Yeah.
It's about us now. Everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be the person looking after the gates of that door in an event. Everyone has to play their part to level up.
True.
Because we're watched now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think African athletes are like monsters. They will be dominant, but we just got to fine tune certain things.
Yeah.
And we would be absolutely dominant, I really believe.
I mean, you watch a lot of podcasts. Well, I'm assuming because I always see you engaging even on my stuff.
Yeah.
Reposting stuff, which I appreciate. So is there one that sticks out to you in terms of even internationally? Is there a podcast that you like?
You see, I'm so bad with names. You know the one that catches my eye? I don't need to know his podcast. You'll know exactly his. He's a UK guy. He linked up with Drickers. And there was a lot of a back and forth banter that he had. I think it was Strickland, no, it was Adesanya.
Okay.
With the whole, I'm more African than you.
Yeah.
And he jumped onto that. I'm trying to think, it's something like
MMA Guru.
MMA Guru or something.
MMA Guru.
You know what I mean?
He even came through to South Africa.
100%.
Yeah.
So that already springs to mind. There's another guy, Jesse something. He's a well-set guy. Looked like he's a bit of a gingery kind of guy.
Okay.
But the way he speaks is different.
Yeah.
He's controversial as well. He says it how it is. I think that's also what we're so afraid of, is to say the wrong thing, where they get in it right, where it's it's part of the game, isn't it? If I'm a fighter and I open up Instagram, for instance, and someone says that I suck, it's part of it. Do you know what I mean? Any publicity is good.
I guess. But also at the same time, you don't want to step on toes, right? And also with us, I think locally, because it's only a few promotions, you also don't want to kind of get shadow banned, in terms of being invited to cover some of the promotions. I think that's also what we're lacking. We can do media, sure, but there's only so many promotions that you can actually cover.
Yeah, it is true. It's true.
But I'm tapped into MMA Guru. I'm a huge follower of him. Even when he came through to South Africa, I actually saw him at the event.
All right.
Took a picture. But he's one that I follow.
You even get some of these fighters now that are in the UFC, they're doing their own podcast.
Yeah, they join onto. So
see
that's what's good
Mark
about
Perry is getting involved.
Yeah.
You got that other guy, super controversial, that Jewish guy. They've kicked him out. The UFC is more into the boxing side now, I think.
Oh, Ariel Helwani.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's also
Ariel's
got his own little flavor.
Yeah.
And also those guys speak their mind. I think it depends what you say and how you say it. There was one media year, the way he projected everything on social media was more like an attack to close the door down of everything we're doing.
Oh, for real?
It was like kati.
Yeah.
So these guys don't care about the fighters. It's despicable.
Oh, yeah. That quick turnaround you did,
100%.
Yeah.
And then now he's doing it to, there's another thing he just started now with. I'm trying to think who it is now. MMA SA hosted an event in Durban a few weeks ago. And the main fight was a white-collar MMA fight. And it was, I think his name's Julio Plaikes or something Plaikes.
Okay.
He's the SA, he played SA fly-off for ruppi.
Oh, yeah.
He was banned.
Is it Alton?
Alton Yankees, it. He was banned for using a bit of juice.
Yeah.
And they're he's you even sanction an event where a guy is illegally, it's not legal to partake in any sport because he's substance abuse. Do you know what I mean? So he throws it out there, but I think how he does it is
it's all in the words,
right angle.
Yeah, 100%. It's all in the words. Yeah, the choice of words that you use, actually, it can be a little offensive. And I guess that's if that's your angle, then
Yeah.
But let's get into it.
I like it.
Dang, I am chilling with the legendary Ashley Padre Calvert. Yeah, you started like in the golden era of the EFC, I always say. EFC Africa, you know, before it became worldwide. Yeah, tell me in terms of like, how did you even get in the mix of being attracted to MMA?
Okay, so very, very long time ago, I think they had UFC on ETV back in the day, and just via switching channels, I came across the UFC,
Sure.
and it immediately like sprung something into me. Didn't know where you could go train this sort of thing or how to do it. A couple of years went by, and then there was a moment in my life where I went into bouncing just so I can earn extra cash to pay my calf. And then I started talking there. And with those guys, they knew exactly what gyms do this sort of training. And that's when I joined up with Neil Diesel and Rory Diesel at Urban Warriors. And yeah, it's from there, it's because I was into bodybuilding. So when I walked in, I was about 94 kilos. And I got manhandled by these little guys. I'm like, muscle don't work. So I was like, I'm into this. This is like the real thing. And that's how it just started, the journey from there,
Yeah, because I mean, like, yeah, I would assume, like, in terms of even, like, getting into bouncing, I have a cousin who has a bouncer, but, like, when he sees me training in terms of jiu-jitsu and all of that, he's like, actually, like, this is what you need in terms of, like, even in real life, you know, scenarios. But, yeah, so that's when the bug bit there in terms of, like, seeing UFC. Do you remember what fight was on?
Yes, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a Brazilian heavyweight. He was like a dominant champion.
Nah.
I just can't think of his name.
Nah. But like, is there then a fighter that you grew up like kind of like seeing that you actually I want to be like him in terms of fighting style when you got into the mix?
I think I never had one specific fighter. I liked a lot like Randy Couture.
Yeah.
Just like he wasn't the biggest guy, but the way he utilized his skills in a very smart manner kind of dominated his opponents. I think it was the lights, heavyweights, as well as the heavyweight division. Yeah. A guy like Chuck Liddell. Let's see who else is there. Man, there's a few older Ken Shamrock.
Sure.
So there's a few guys out there that I just enjoyed a specific parts of them, but there wasn't one specific fighter
that's like,
this is the guy that I want to mimic.
Yeah.
It was just bits and pieces of everyone.
Of everyone's game, yeah. I can see that. I can see that also like with you, like you like to mix it up. Like that's another thing. Like you weren't afraid in terms of like taking it down. You weren't afraid in terms of like even like standing, you know, and brawling. But yeah, like in terms of like, you know, you never had the prettiest of records, you know?
No, not at all.
Yeah, you never had the prettiest of records, but like I feel like in terms of even having you, because like, yeah, my podcast is not about like champions and all of that. It's about like getting to understand the people's journey, you know, and what made them who they are, you know, because I mean, like also with you transitioned into matchmaking, but we'll get into that. But yeah, tell me in terms of like now, what kept you going within even like adversity, you know, when you like, is there moments of doubts that you had within a career, like actually, am I good in this, you know?
So basically, not to go into depth of it, I didn't have the easiest growing up childhood and that. A lot of bad things happened to me, but also in the same sense, I did a lot of bad things as well, you know. So there's always these trials, tribulations in my life. I think because I kind of meditate on this when I retired. What was the difference between the first half of my career to the second half?
Yeah.
And the first half, I had good coaches, good training partners, and I was really amazing on the mat. But when I stepped into the cage, it like as I had this out-of-body experience. I was watching just this man doing stupid things. Like I was making the most stupidest mistakes. I never had the right support structure at home. I was never in the most healthiest relationships. Second half came because I had a 6-year layoff. I couldn't afford to do the sports anymore. Just it was the circumstance in life.
Yeah.
And found my wife, or found a lady, married her, and life started changing. So I never trained for those 6 years. Then spontaneously, Steve Law says, "Look, he needs a coach. I'm near him. Can I help him?" And we were just starting out on a gym. It wasn't even a proper mat system or anything. And I would just be helping this guy whenever you could come around. And my wife was like, you got to start. I'm like,
to get back into
never,
things.
it's done. It's died in me. Like I'd had to mourn it.
Dang.
Because it really, really was such a hard thing to let go. So eventually I was like, okay, let's do it. So I contacted Graham. I said, Graham, give me a year. I'll be back if you want me. He says 100%. And at the time, Steve Laws was training to fight Sondi.
Okay.
And then he pulled out. And I think they were finding it difficult to find a last-minute replacement. And then Graham's like 4 days before the event, Ash, do you want to step in? And I'm like 73 kilos or 74, 73. Catch weights, 100%. Let the wife know. At that time, I had Jacques Rousseau and Lennon also helping me out.
Shout out to
And
Lennon.
we just went into it. And it was what, just over a minute and 30 seconds. And I landed a decent submission. And then, as I say, when I retired, I thought about it. I had the right support structure. I had one person to believe in me, which is my wife. And that made such a world of a difference. All you need is that one person. Because maybe I didn't believe in myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's where the magic started is very much from my wife.
Nah.
Her belief system and supports as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that you owe a lot of that like to her. I mean, I've seen also like you had her in your corner at times, like for most times, and even like getting into the rematch with Sizwe, you know, and winning that, you know, like that's that reigniting that spark. But yeah, like I guess you've spoken in terms of like, but also I know that also your faith has been strong, like in the second wind. You know, can you speak about that in terms of like now turning a corner and like, you know, believing in God and like.
Okay, Christ Jesus is the most important aspect in my life entirely. It just was a process for me, the transformation of which He takes you to help you become a better person naturally, willingly.
Yeah.
And so I've been in the faith for very long, but as I say, you still got this worldly mindset as opposed to like the spiritual mindsets and that. And as you go in the journey, you mature in it, you know. So when I came the second half, that was probably where the strength really started coming out in regards to my faith in that. Whatever the circumstances or the outcome, it's all right. It's the will of God, isn't it? As long as I'm safe and my opponent's safe and we're enjoying it, we're not, because it seems malicious, the sports, but at the end of the day, we're just competitors.
Yeah.
There was not a single time I threw a punch at anyone that I fought against and I hated the person.
Okay.
It was more like, I'm here to try and bring the best out of you, but at the same breath, I expect you to bring the best out of me. And that's pretty much the mindset, the mentality and the heart of what I had.
Yeah. I think I could also see it even with the Iga fights, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of at the end there was a few exchange of words that you guys had, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like even then with Sizwe and them, like you still kept that respectful aspect of it. Also with Shannon, but yeah, like tell me in terms of like now, what it felt like getting that rematch. And like conquering someone that had already beaten you, like the emotions that went into that.
The first fight, I don't know if anyone has seen the first fight of me and Sizwe in Durban.
Yeah, it was
like it was an absolute banger of a fight.
Yeah.
And that's what I was searching for. It wasn't necessarily redemption, getting my hand raised. It was more like I wanted to go back to that moment. I felt like he beat me fair and square, but I felt like I could have carried on. I braced exactly how I was kind of instructed to do as a coach, and the ref just kind of jumped into it and stopped the fight.
Sure.
So I felt like me and him were robbed of possibly like one of the greatest fights ever. And I wanted to search for that again.
Yeah.
But I learned as well, it's not necessarily going to happen in the second chapter. You know what I mean? Life doesn't always just repeat like that.
Yeah, replicate that.
So it wasn't even close to how we first fought. So yes, disappointment, but a lot of a learning curve as well in life as well for me personally. But I respect Sizwe. I think he's one of my favorite fighters. He's one of the guys that just doesn't say no to a fight. I think he's fought in multiple weight categories. Doesn't care who the opponent is.
Did it feel any different then with you getting your second win, like in your second half of the career, fighting in the like post-COVID versus pre-COVID? With the 6-year layoff, like, you know, obviously like your wife was the anchor, but like in terms of like you getting in there, like in terms of like how you were feeling, you know, was it any different?
The first fight when I fought Sonia and even Sizwe, I was exceptionally relaxed.
Okay.
Like I think I grew so much in that time period because it was such a hard period of time. Like something just small. There was one part in that 6-year layoff. I ended up under a bridge in Hatfield, ready to give up on life.
For real?
Yeah. And I still remember the guy came, he was like in a military kind of uniform, one of the homeless guys, and he saluted me.
Yeah.
And I realized in my heart how quickly you can get sucked into being homeless. There's a whole nother world that we don't know. And then as time started going on, whilst me sitting under this bridge and moping and me, myself, and our victim mode, eventually I started realizing, hold on, I'm better than this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm meant for more, which is then gave me the strength just to say, you know what, I may not know what tomorrow brings, but I got to get up and I got to walk forward. So when it comes to a fight, when you've experienced those sort of aspects in life, the real nitty gritty of life, it's easier. It's a privilege. So the first half, never felt privileged being here. Second half, I came here with a different perspective of trials, tribulations, and that.
Yeah.
It's an absolute privilege to be here. Even to work for the company, the promotion, that they gave me a chance. It's an absolute privilege and it's a blessing. And it's not to be taken advantage of. So everything, my mindset's changed.
Yeah.
I've grown. So I needed that suffering. So second fight season, I think maybe when it came to Cabeza, it was a mountain and a half, isn't it? It's a Goliath. Even though I wasn't worried about the outcome. But I think the difference there as well is the spotlight was different. There's the belt all of a sudden in front of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You
You got all this attention coming to you. So it's like you kind of get sucked into that. And you lose focus of why you're actually fighting in the first place. So I think that's why it was a little bit more of a different persona to me. I got sucked into the glitz and the glamour of it, which is a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, the fights should never be bigger than the occasion, so to speak. You should always just remember it's like going into sparring. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Would Igor beat me? 10 out of 10 times most probably. You know what I mean? But it wasn't about that. It was about showing other people in life, if you've got a mountain and a half, go for it. You know, don't be afraid and see what the outcome is. Hopefully it encourages some fighters also not to select their fights. You're a fighter. If you get a challenge, go for it.
Yeah.
That's the only... You got to risk it to get the biscuit. So it's like you have to take sometimes those kind of fights where maybe some people think you're crazy, you know. So I'm blessed that I actually got to fight him, and hopefully was in the UFC. I can point out as an old man and say, he choked me out quite nicely, you know what I mean. He actually gave me a hide. He was one of the guys. So it's yeah.
I feel like there was so much that you actually unpacked there. But like, so for you, was being, because I mean, like now when you say like all of a sudden a belt is in the perspective, you know. So for you, was it ever a thing of like being a champion when you started? Like, was that the goal, or was it just because of the love of it?
In the first half, I trained under really good trainers, and they all felt like I could have become a champion. On the training mats, I trained like a champion.
It's true.
I might not have been the best, say they'd say stand up or something, but I'll catch you somewhere. You know, I mean, my ground game was a lot better back then than what you've seen on the second half. Those are just the after effects. It's the muscle memory that you saw in there, you know. So yes, I feel I could have been a champion if I had the right support structure.
From get-go, no?
100%. So because I had everything. I had the right sparring partners. I had the right coaches. It was just that one element I felt was missing. Because think about it. First half, 0% success rate. Second half, with no training in between, 50% success rates. And what people don't realize, the only way I prepared for the second half of my fights was 5-minute rounds of sparring. That's it, every single day. Okay, Monday to Saturday, Sunday rest. That's all I did. I maybe had a Jacques Rousseau come every now and again when he could, or Lennon as a coach. It was just me and my stepson. That's all we did, is we just sparred the whole time.
Figured it out.
You know what I mean? I never had someone really every single day to say, Ash, this and that. I would study on YouTube certain moves, catch wrestling, for instance, and I would try it on him without him knowing. And I would learn in that aspect. And as soon as I mastered it, I would then go to him and say, look, guys, this is what we need to do in a coaching aspect.
Yeah.
So I think if I had the right coaching and sparring partners with my stepson and my wife, the support structure, I think it would have been a lot more than 50%, at least pushing to 80 to 90% success rate, I believe personally. That's just my viewpoint.
Dang. You know, actually, fun fact, Coach Leonard is actually my jiu-jitsu coach.
All right. Yeah, he's the one who taught me how to really master chokes.
Is it?
That guy can choke anyone out from any angle.
Yeah.
Like he's got those like banana fingers. They get into the most closest gaps. He is the main reason why my chokes are so good.
Nah.
100%.
Yeah. Also, like in terms of his top pressure, like everything is just like, damn, coach.
And his patience.
Yeah. Like he's not rushing anything.
No,
He'll let you do whatever, but he's defending. But then he'll
100%.
catch you on something. It's like, you know.
He's
But
a
yeah,
good
shout
guy.
out to Coach Lennon. But yeah, so in terms of like then, would you say like that would be, I guess, like a regret in your career then, like in terms of like not having proper coaching?
No, it needed to be that way.
Part of the journey,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. It was never actually. Maybe this is my time, isn't it? Maybe this is the time now in this position that I've been blessed with, and going forward as well. Because the main goal is to bring fighter or athletes and the company closer together. Number one.
Sure.
And if I can just add 0.001% improvements for the guys in there, then I've done my job. And I'm not just
Yeah.
saying South Africa, I'm talking about Africa. Like, I'm not short-sighted. I don't just look at it as a local. I look at it as a whole Africa. And we need to come together and progress together.
Yeah.
So I think this is my moment, to be honest. I got a different fight. And I think this is the right fight for me now. Yeah.
You figured out your purpose, nah?
100%.
Nah, but I also like in terms of speaking of purpose, like I also know that you have kids that you help out. In terms of like even within while you were still fighting, that like you had kids that you brought in, and like, could you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so because I've got a family of fighters now.
It's true.
So us as a family would go to Mamelodi. It is a place that I hold dear to my heart, or my family does.
It's true.
And we try to encourage the kids to pull them off the streets in that specific location and learn some fighting skills in the right manner. Do some exercises just to keep them occupied and show them some attention. Unfortunately, that project did cease.
Okay.
But now I'm busy studying, so what I want is, because I never had someone really like a mentor when I was young, going through a lot of bad things. I think that's what also landed up doing stupid things, is I'm studying to do biblical counseling.
Okay.
So that's where my next venture is as well. I'm a strong believer in giving back to the community. So whether you got money or not, and you're in a dark space and you just need a voice of reason or someone to speak to, that's where I want to place myself amongst all of this.
Yeah.
Just help like the youth out, and that's 100%. So
Nah. So damn, do you attribute like in terms of like you wanting to help out people because like you never had that growing up? Nah.
100%. There were a lot of dysfunction was around me, and that's why maybe my analytical skills are very high, my observation is high, because that's how I have to learn at some stages. You see people doing certain things, and now you got to figure out, is this right or is this wrong? You know, so and it's hard, and it can be a very confusing situation. I think also why I hold sports so dearly into my heart is because that's what kept me going. Sport was, I played soccer, rugby, I was a 100-meter sprinter, and then eventually I came into the MMA. It's always been something part of my life where I can escape my troubles. You know, but also some people don't have that.
Yeah.
They just need someone to be there and say, you know what, everything's going to be all right, you know. Hear the crazy stories that they tell you and say, you know what, you're not the only one in this world, you know. There are people there and care about you, and let's work on a plan going forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're creating hope, and you're giving them faith that there is better out there, you know. So that's kind of where I'm positioning myself naturally.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, that's dope, man. Like, yeah, I hope even the biblical counseling stuff like really thrives, you know, in terms of like you identifying that for yourself. But yeah, speaking of joining the athletes and the matchmaking and bringing them with the promotion, but yeah, how did the process come about in terms of like having you be the like a matchmaker and being on board with matchmaking in the AFC?
At that specific time, I finished my 6-fight contract, and then all of a sudden I saw this advert going out looking for an opening position for matchmaker in this promotion.
Sure.
And then I kind of like meditated a little bit. I spoke to my wife. I was like, look, either I can sign another 6 fights, have it regardless of what happens, and retire, or I can try apply for this position. If I get it, then I'm still in the game for a lot longer. So that's how I kind of just applied, sent it to Graham and that. And then, we had a meeting with Calvert and Graham, and it just snowballed from there, you know. So it's been a good journey, a lot of lessons learned as well. And Graham and Calvin and Cara and all them and Silas, like I've learned a lot. You know,
Yeah.
they've really been welcoming
Yeah.
and supportive. So only good things can come off this sort of experience. And as I say, me as an athlete coming into this position, I just want that 0.001% improvement that I can do. Then I'm happy. You know. So that is the goal.
Nah, in terms of like bettering the athletes or even bettering like someone else's journey, nah, in terms of like
100%.
how it turns out.
The broad spectrum of everything. Even as a fan that may never become a professional fighter, they're feeding off some form of inspiration from a fighter in the cage. You know what I mean? It's giving hope to people that do not have hope. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot more to the sport than what we realize than punching and kicking and that. There really is. And even like, I can encourage all the fighters to do some community work as well. You would change so much in a kid's perspective in life and make them feel valued as well. And maybe there's gems out there that come in and become UFC champions as well, just by giving back to the community. So
Yeah.
so there's a broad spectrum when it comes to the sports. It's not just punching and kicking and being
champ.
violent and talking smack. There's a lot more to it.
But also, you never know in terms of what you can learn even for yourself, nah, in terms of like like how as you're helping someone else, you know, like you can discover things about yourself also. But yeah, so how long has it been with you being in the mix now for in matchmaking?
Oh man, I never keep track of time, but I'm sure it's over a year now.
Nah,
Maybe
yeah,
close to a year and a half. I'm thumb sucking.
yeah,
I don't really go on days. Every single day I'm working, and my wife can be a testament to that.
it's true.
There is no, and all hours as well. People don't realize how much work gets into this, and it's all about relationships. Building new relationships, maybe fixing relationships, just growing relationships. It's all about communication.
Nah,
So I spend a lot of time on that in different hours, because we're not just dealing locally, we're dealing with internationals, Europe, America, Brazil.
yeah.
There's other African countries, so there's a lot of work that gets done.
I remember when I had Graham on, and he was also saying the same thing. Like in terms
Yeah.
of like, yeah, it's a 24/7, you know,
100%.
type job. It's never like on or off, you know, 9 to 5. But yeah, in terms of like, then tell me in terms of like how the relationships as you speak about, how they've grown in terms of like in your part, you know, yeah, like what relationships do you feel like have gotten stronger when you started versus like where you're at now?
I think it's still early days, to be honest. I think I am forming, hopefully, a little bit of trust, but it's still early days. There is still a lot of work. It's just how I'm kind of observing it. Rome wasn't built in a day.
True.
And slow and steady wins the race.
True.
So if I'm going to build up a proper, true relationship with the fighters, I can't do it just like that. It takes time. I really have to get to know the guys. And unfortunately, you can't get to know an athlete properly at a weigh-in or an event. There's just too much happening. So, yeah, there's a lot of investment of time outside of weighing and the fight there to build those relationships up, you know?
Because also like they have to cut weight, so now you're trying to have a conversation. Like, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, they just want to eat, be comfortable, get big
Just
again.
hydrate.
And then they're just focusing on their fight. So
They-
they don't want to hear me say, how's your life
How's
going?
going?
And, you know?
Makes sense. Makes sense. I had Terrence on, and he was also quite fond about you in terms of like your relationship with him. You know, so tell me in terms, because I mean you made the call, the 10-hour call, to get him to fight Musa. So yeah, tell me in terms of like how did you even think about reaching out to Terrence? Whoa.
Look, the process when it comes to something like that, me and Graham just start throwing names out.
Okay.
And then it is like a hit and run kind of method, where you get your list of names and you just start hitting it out, as many phone calls as you can. And this is where you kind of, and no offense to some fighters,
Okay.
if you say no, it's no, you can't force anyone, but then you get those special gems, like Terrence. So a lot of phone calls happen, no, we need more time, no, these weight cut, this, that. Okay, cool, fair enough, but then you get a Terrence Bilello, you call him on the day, he's just woken, you're woken him up now.
Yeah,
You tell him
you
this
just say,
news, he's trying to like gather what you're busy saying. And all you get from him is like, let's do this kind of thing. Got to talk to Hayden, my coach, but he's in. And it's like that. And look what happened. He created something special.
True.
You know, And this is all I can kind of say. That moment should inspire other athletes, whether you're amateur or you're professional, to have that mindset. If you're looking to go to the UFC, in my opinion, you got to have that gamemanship. You know what I mean? You can't go to Dana White and say, give me another 2 months, I'll be ready for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he says now, it's now. Or never.
Yeah.
So that door may just close. And he took it. And hopefully his life's changed in the positive. He is definitely a special gem. And I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. Just for that attitude that he has. He's a born superstar.
Yeah.
That's
You
just
can
my
see it.
viewership.
You can see
100%.
it, yeah. You can see it even in the walkouts, in everything, how he carries himself, you know. Yeah, like you can see it. But like, tell me then, because we spoke about relationships, where like, and Graham had said like, there's a lot that you have to step on people's toes, kinda, you know, in terms of like, you can't always be good with everyone. Have you had that in your part?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. Unfortunately, you can't always be the bearer of good news. It's just how life works. It's up to the person receiving it, what they want to do with it, isn't it? They either take it as a negative and they protest and get nowhere, or they use it and say, you know what, we got time. I'm going to keep working super, super hard. That if an opportunity they're asking for arises, I'm ready. Even if it's like Terence Billow, 10 hours before, you're ready for it. You know what I mean? If you really want it that bad, you'll make it happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is. It's part of the job. I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. Like I said, I've accepted the good and the negative and the positive.
Sure.
So I know as time goes on, certain things will improve, and there will possibly be less of that. You know, we've got to change the mindsets to become more professional, to level up. So yeah.
So is it a thing of like also like you understand, obviously having been an athlete in the same organization, like you see things that were done to you, like you try to apply them differently. In terms of like now and there.
100%. Like there's even a moment, if I may give it, Graham called me for a fight, went to the office to go sign, said, sorry, I can't market this fight. Then and there, it's like,
your fight.
I'm like, what the flip? Okay, I was going to fight Francis Groenewold or something.
Yeah.
I was excited for it because the first grappler I'm going to fight, and he told me that. But it's the nature of the game. I didn't go and retire from the sport then and there. I kept training hard. And you know what? He came to the gym, because he obviously might have felt maybe it was the wrong thing that happened, but he came to the gym and he apologized. You know what I mean? So I got great respect for someone like that. They can actually come out of their way just to say, you know what, I'm sorry.
I was wrong.
And he gave me another opportunity as well. But it's part of the game. You know what I mean? It's just how it works. And understand the nature of the game, and it won't really affect you that emotionally as much. It's, like I say, yeah. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a lot of learning curves.
Damn, I feel like this year, as compared to, I guess, like last year, like the EFC has given us like a lot of bangers in terms of like, you know, the fights that you guys have put on. Yeah, from like your Faiz returning and being a champion to like JP Kruger and Luke Michael, you know, and Duplessis, like Jaco Duplessis at some point. But yeah, tell me, has there been one that of your favorites within this year?
Not specific fights yet. I like the Terence Billow and Edson fight. I thought that was really good.
Okay.
A lot of theatrics as well. Bit of a controversial decision.
Super skillful, I feel like. It was super high level, and like both guys
100%.
understood, and like that's why you got, you know, it kind of became a stalemate in terms
So I enjoyed that.
UFC flyweight champion of the world, Edson Trapdoor Spider Machavane!
Moments like that are good, that I've enjoyed. Having now also Martin fights Iga, I think that's truly amazing. If you probably, I don't know, maybe my maths is wrong. If you had to calculate the amount of fights Iga's had to Martin, you probably got one of the most experienced fights in the whole of history of EFC. That's something to look forward to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are these good moments. So
what's insane is that like Martin had headlined the fight, like you guys had co-mained the fight where you and Iga had co-mained the fight that actually Martin was fighting. Was it Makengelene? At welterweight, I think, for the belt.
Zika, 100%. When he knocked two people out in once. Crazy. 100%.
Damn. So yeah, you were in the mix, and like, you know, as you're saying, like now actually Martin and Iga are fighting. You know, they've been at it. But yeah, how's that in terms of like now fighting against those athletes, and then you have to pick up a call and matchmake? Because I mean, also you fought someone on the card, Shandon, right? So yeah, how's it in terms of like, yo, you've had a relationship within the ring, and now you have to, outside.
I think every single fight that I have had, when it's done, there's a certain bond that you have with that person that I've always had, where they actually become good friends.
Yeah.
So the transition over to matchmaking from athletes it's actually been easy. I think I've always had a consistency in who I am. I've never really been too much of a bipolar trait. So I think that's also helped a lot with relationships when I stepped in.
It's true.
And then just carrying that over, to all the relationships I have to build up and get to know people and that. So as long as I've just consistent, I'm true to myself, I've never had an issue.
Nah.
Yeah.
So it's not a difficult thing, like hitting them up and like, because the relationship is still solidified there. But yeah, tell me in terms of like what you think about like now this card that we're heading into, EFC 120, we're closing off the year. But yeah, basically, obviously like summing up the year. Yeah, what do you think about this card as the last one? Because also, yeah, a fight fell through,
Yeah, fights fall through. But there's one thing I learned as well since being here. I've looked at some cards and I'm like, man, I hope this pulls off. And they're like humdingers. And then I look at another card, I'm like, man, there's no ways this can fail. And it's like everyone's gun shy. No one wants to throw a punch. And it's like it completely flops.
Yeah.
So you always have that 50-50. EFC has offered a platform, but at the end of the day, the end result is up to the fighters. It's no one else's fault or whatever influence. It's just them two that need to now perform. And that's the thing with the sports as well, is this isn't a sport to be safe in a sense of play safe, strategic kind of like things just to get a win. It's about entertainment as well.
It's true.
True. I could go in there and I can absolutely give everything and I could lose, but I can become, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My shares worth is high. You know what I mean? I could go in there and I can run around and not try be hit and take him down and let him be comfortable, get back
be safe,
and repeat the process and win just by points. And it's like no one wants to watch you. You know what I mean? It's the nature of the game.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can try and figure out something on the amateur side. If we can get that mentality to switch over. Because it's like, there's some fights in there that it's gunshot, but they've got all the skills in the world. So I don't know if it's a trust thing. They're not trusting their skill on their coaches
themselves, yeah.
and their training camps, and they're worried about getting knocked out or choked. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trust your skills. Go in there no matter what happens, it happens.
True.
But go and perform because you deserve it. You deserve for the world to see what you can do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's just a mentality thing. But we'll see. We'll work on it.
Then how does the decision of like putting which fighter at main card versus like at prelims, like how does that work?
Obviously, who puts bums on seats is an important factor. Who's marketable. There are some fighters that don't market themselves.
True.
So it's difficult in that sense. Performance as well. Like I say, Lucky Mageka is a guy when he gets in there, he's going to give you everything.
Standing back.
A guy like that is very close to stepping in. And Sanda Zondi. You know what I mean? He's only had 3 fights, 3 first-round finishes. He's fighting on the main card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's fighting a weight category higher than them. He's a superstar. He deserves to be on there.
Yeah.
He has a following for the reason
True.
of who he is. And he's not afraid. He's not afraid to jump in there and get stuck in.
Yeah.
You know? So it all just comes down to those certain aspects. And I'm sure people can throw in more elements to it.
True.
Or even take away from what I'm saying.
Nando Zondi is actually like another fighter I'm big on in terms of like seeing his progression, even like seeing him at Versus, because that's the first time I saw him at, and then making the transition into the EFC, but yeah, and even the switch of opponents, because I mean like I was super excited about the Nathaniel and him fights,
Yes.
but yeah, like to learn that actually like it kind of fell through, due to whatever reasons, like yeah, that was quite, like, I was looking forward to that one.
It's a bit of a snowball effect. So the original bout was Willie van Rijn versus Nathaniel Kamana. Willie got an injury, pulled out.
On this
Zonny
card,
steps in, this one.
Okay.
Zonny steps in, Nathaniel gets injured. You know what I mean? It's also some cards where I realize there's a certain nature to it. and there's normally like a common pattern that happens in a card.
Okay.
And each card is different. This is one of those cards.
Is it?
Yeah, 100%. And then also, everyone wants to be on the a December card. You say, guys, there's just so many, there's not enough slots. Just be active. Time comes when now this happens, crunch time, to get guys, sorry, I'm on December mode.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you just missed the opportunity to be on the biggest card of the year.
True. And then you'll only get back like what, next year March, you know?
100%.
That's when things kick off. But yeah, tell me, so have you guys started prepping for next year, like in terms of like matches to make, fights to make, and yeah?
I'm hoping that we will open up those cards as soon as this event's done. I'd like to get most of the work done before this year's up, so most of the fighters know exactly when to start the year with
Prepping,
their
yeah.
camps. There is ideas. We want to try get that Jess and Philista on. We want to try see if we can get that.
Also, that's gonna happen still.
It has to happen.
Yeah.
It really has to happen. I think a lot of work got put in from both camps. It's just an unfortunate injury that happened. We want to uplift the female divisions, so that is a fight to make, you know. Terence Bolello maybe Edson. I don't know.
Rematch,
We'll discuss it as a team. This is coming from me. It's not a confirmed thing. Hopefully that can happen. I'd like to see that rematch. So there are things in work. There are things of the headliners in work, but I'd like to just get everything else done as well before this year's up.
Nah. I feel like you guys definitely watch Fighting Talk. Nah, I feel like I made that fight.
Well, that's the thing. That's why podcasts are so important, because you can get influence of ideas as well.
So
if
that
I
is
think
the
I
thing.
know everything, then I'm deceiving myself.
True.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm always on social media.
Tapped
I'm always
in,
tapping into what you guys are doing in that,
Yeah.
because I'm picking off ideas. And there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes they land up to be magic fights as well. So
Yeah, because, you know, like Terrence was the one who actually reminded me in terms of like, yo, you actually told Edson, like, yo, you and Terrence would be dope. And like, yeah, like now it's a matter of like it materialized, you know, into a title fight. So are we doing something with Tumelo? Because he's also in the cusp, I guess.
Tumelo, yeah, he was supposed to fight this card, but got another injury. So we'll see next year what his sort of status is. But he's definitely hungry. He's hungry to get in. He wants his title shots.
It's been a while also.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know what exactly injury. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's something with the knee and that.
Knee, yeah.
But it is what it is. It's part of that, you know what I mean? His journey is now to rehab, and next year comes is to get stuck in. And I think he'll have more fire under his belly.
Yeah.
He really wants the title shot. I do think he deserves to be there. He's performed super well. It's just a matter of time.
Nah.
You know? Yeah.
So also, you'd also agree that feuds help like matchmaking in your line of work.
It's marketing. Like you got Shannon Patona versus Musa. It's bad blood. Viewership.
Yeah.
People want to see stuff like that. It's part of entertainment as well. And also those fighters, Shannon's been asking for Musa for a while as well, you know. So it was a no-brainer to just finally, okay, guys, let's make a weight category everyone's healthy with and happy with. Great. This fight can happen. We can get over with it now. We can move on after tomorrow night. So, but I'm excited to see that fight.
Nah,
you know,
true. Like, yeah, because I mean, like we've seen like them fight, but like it's a matter of like since they've also been feuding, you know. On like calling each other sad news. Like, yeah, like I like that aspect of that fight. But also speaking of beefs, like we know someone on this card, Luke Michael and Shadrack, have something going on. Are we going to see that fight? I mean, obviously, depending on what happens on 120, right?
Yeah. Next year, we'll discuss with Chris and Shadrack. I saw, for me personally speaking, on his last fight, I don't know if maybe he's been rushed too much quickly to a title fight. Maybe it was just a bad night. It can happen to a fighter, because we have seen him in there like a monster. He's got all the potential in the world.
True.
So it all comes down, because how we do the main fights is we all got to sit down as a team and discuss it. It's not just one person says this is going to happen and so it happens.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a process. It's a well thought process, and we discuss this. So can it happen? Absolutely.
Nah.
Will there be something else maybe to put Shadrack into, you know, sharpen him up a bit for it? It can happen. Yeah, absolutely. There's always potential for it.
Dang. But yeah, that's the world of EFC. I feel like I'm super excited in terms of like what the plans have going on, especially for next year. You know, I know also like in terms of like what I'm trying to advocate, or I've been advocating, is the traveling stuff. You know, like in terms of putting shows on the road. But like I feel like also with what you said, building the female divisions. You know, also getting more athletes from different continents and international, you know, to upskill everyone within the promotion. I feel like, yeah, like that's what we need, obviously, going into next year. But for yourself, like, are you looking at training people? Like, what's your motive now going on?
For myself, I'm looking to try, because I've got an affiliated gym, so I do have my kids that I had been training. I kind of pulled back a little bit. This has taken a lot of my time.
Okay.
I would like to try go back in, but not as a full-time. Just go every now and again and show a few things. I would like to get involved, hopefully, with MMA SA as well. If an old fighter, and I'm sure there's a lot of other old fighters out there that also have the same mentality.
So like refereeing, judging?
Actually, no, maybe do like sort of seminars for the amateur athletes. You know, even the coaches can be involved as well, and just see maybe new systems, new ideas that they can implement to their students. They could potentially uplift the level.
Yeah.
You know, because we all have to level up, isn't it?
True.
And I feel like there are a lot of old fighters that have that mindset. They can actually invest a lot of positive sort of information towards the guys in amateur circuits. I think we can make a change from the grassroots, you know. So, but I'll get there. So maybe those two things I will start picking up more. Also, nice. Sorry, you spoke about the whole intertwining with other countries and all that. So just a little snippet with our contender series. I've already been working with other dominant countries in Africa that they're happy to come around with their amateur athletes. And some of them are African champs as well.
Nice.
They can mix with our guys. So if they can get that level all the time on a local scene, the time they reach pro, they've seen it and done it all. You know what I mean? It's like it levels up. So they don't have to wait for African games to finally only get to fight potentially one of the top guys.
True.
You know what I mean? And it's also nice then that the other top guys in Africa, for instance, Namibia, is a Damian Muller. He's the flyweight IMF African champion, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to come here next year, and he's got a potential chance of becoming pro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a nice avenue to draw those kind of fighters in.
Get the talent
into the pro circuit. So we can only level up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
It's only good things, nah. And the farm's going good?
Farm is great. It's amazing. Like as a city boy, but moving to open space like that, after a hard day's work or challenges, you centralize yourself. Like you just ground yourself. And it's humbling as well. Like if you just go out at night and there's a certain peace to it, and you just breathe some fresh air, and you know what I mean, it recharges you.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people, if you have an opportunity to go to open space and live there, please go do it. Like it's so much better than the city life.
Yeah, because it does get overwhelming, nah. Like
It is.
everything does get overwhelming. Especially because I'm also not from the side like Johannesburg, so like coming back from the Eastern Cape, it's a matter of like having a much more slower upbringing in terms of like, you know, your livelihood versus like coming to the city life and like experiencing the charge and like just the rush, you know. But yeah, I feel like I had a really good conversation with you, Ashley. I'm getting to know you. Actually, you're even like a requested guest on the podcast. Someone DM'd me. Also, people mustn't DM me for guests. Like, tell me on the comment section who you want. But yeah, someone DM'd me in terms of like having you. But I have spoken to you in terms of like having you on the podcast, and like knowing that you were keen also was really dope. But yeah, thank you for the sit down. And this has been another knockout episode with myself, Tshuck, and Ashley Padre Calvert.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's fighting talk.